Welcome back to Concrete Crafts. This is video 3 of 3 for our turtle sock puppet. Video 1 did our materials, video 2 made the sock body, and video 3 we're now going to make the turtle shell to put our sock puppet into. We got this pattern from Puppet Mania by John Kennedy, our little turtle guy right here. Thanks very much for that pattern. We've adapted it a little bit, but away we go. So we've made our body in video 2 that we've put aside. I've glued all 4 of the legs and stuck them together, and we're going to put those aside for now too. Standing by, I have the material that I've prepped for my belly of my shell. This one I had felt that was too thin, so I cut 2 strips and then glued them down the middle. I've pre-cut my piece of, let's just move the shapes. I've pre-cut my piece of yellow. And then I've also pre-cut some rough shapes that I think I want to use for my shell pattern. They don't have to be exact yet. I want to match them. Once I have the shell on, I'll know how much room I have to work with, and I'll just trim these down to make the pattern on the back. I also cut a couple of these orange shapes into little trapezoids. The way that I did that is I cut a strip of orange, then I made an angle cut at the bottom, and then I just went along and made a cut one way, cut pointing down, cut pointing up, cut pointing down, cut pointing up, and ended up with this fun little base shape to work with on my shell. So I'm going to put those aside for a minute as well. Our felt standing by, and we're going to start with our 2-liter soda bottle. So we need to cut our 2-liter soda bottle into shape. We're going to be using our craft knife to do that. Make sure that your hands are large enough to be doing this on your own. If you've got small hands, get some bigger hands to help you out with this. I'm going to take my permanent marker and make a mark around the bottom. And you can make a mark or you can just follow the line, but I'm going to end up following the line right here just to cut the back end off the bottom of my 2-liter pop bottle. So let's take our blade. We're going to very carefully get it started, and then I have a trick I like to use where I just hold the blade against the table and I roll the soda bottle around on the blade so it's not pointing at my fingers at all. If it slips, it's just going to slip straight down onto the table, and I'm just going to come all the way around following the line that's in the plastic as best I can. If you don't have a line in the plastic, make a line with your marker until it comes all the way around and we've cut that back end off. Put that aside, we're not going to use it anymore. And then what do we do about the top end? So I'm going to look down the bottle, and I've actually got some lines on the bottle showing me where the halfway mark is. And I want to make a mark on either side of the bottle so that we mark half and half on the opposite side. And on one half of the bottle, we're just going to cut around just like we did on the bottom, following one of the lines, and cut halfway around the bottle. And on the top half of the bottle, we want to get this little shape that we've got on the shell where there's a little piece coming out. See how there's a little curved part? Whereas on the bottom, we just cut straight around, but now we need to make this curved part on the other half of the bottle. So you want to find the middle of the bottle between your 2 points, and part way up we're going to make a little dot for the middle of our bottle, and we're going to trace a bell shape from the dot on the side to the dot up in the middle. And you want to make it as symmetrical as you can so that one side looks the same as the other side, and we end up with a line that looks like that. And now we're going to take our craft knife and do that cut again. I'm going to do the easy cut first. I'm going to try starting right at my corner spot. Carefully and slowly get that blade in. You'll notice the bottle wants to collapse a bit because it doesn't have the back side holding it together again. So just carefully get it in there so that it doesn't collapse on you as you're pushing. I'm going to follow again my blade all the way around, slowly until I get to that point again. And now I have to be a little bit more careful to get in I'm going to slip my blade in a bit sideways. There we go. And then I'm just going to follow that bell curve. Careful cutting towards yourself. I'm going to keep the knife pointed towards the table as much as I can. Come all the way down until we get to that point. And then I have my basic shell shape. So there's the piece coming off the front here and the bits in the back. Yeah, that should be just fine. He'll tuck right under. And it doesn't matter if your shape is a little bit rough or if you've gone a bit wonky on your cut. I definitely have right here. Once we fold the felt or the paper or whatever it is you're using over, it's going to hide that for you. So there's our first step. We're going to close up our knife, safety, and put it off to the side. We're not using that anymore. Great. And now we're going to take our piece. Oh, put this aside, but hold on to it because it's going to come in handy at the end. So I'm going to start with my belly piece. It doesn't matter what the top ends look like because they're going to get hidden underneath the shell. So we don't have to worry about cleaning these ends up, but we want to stick them down onto the body, and then we're going to take the ends and we're going to fold them. There's a bit of too much glue right in the middle there. We're going to fold it around and glue the edge down onto the bottle all the way around. Just going to put a little break in the glue there. And I'll probably have to make a little bit of a cut right here just to get my edge folded down. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a bead of glue down the, oh, need a new stick. We're going to put a bead of glue down the side of the belly piece. And then I'm going to take my bottle and lay it on the table, looking to see so it's a little bit of overhang. And we'll just give that a bit of a squish, following the shape of your bottle if it's got a little bit of a divot on it there. And we're going to fold it up around. Well, could have left myself a little bit more. I'm a little bit lopsided, but it doesn't matter because it's going to get covered when we do the top part of the shell. So then I'm just going to do the same thing, run a bead along the edge here. And you want to make sure when you're doing the gluing, it's probably likely that your glue is so hot that it's going to melt the bottle. It's going to warp the shape of the plastic of the bottle. So it's really helpful if you put your glue on the material, let it cool a little bit first, and then stick it down to your bottle so that you don't end up warping up the plastic when the hot glue touches it. I can actually feel it under my finger right now. I can feel that I warped this one. I put it down a little bit too soon. That's okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to pre-shape these and fold them over the edges. So it's got a little bit of its shape already to it before I do the gluing. And I'm going to come in here and stick a little line down all the way around. And then fold that edge over. Careful not to get it sticking out onto my fingers. Keep folding the edge over and glue it all the way down. That middle one has a bunch of glue where I had to make a seam to glue the two pieces together. So I'm just going to give it an extra little bead and see if it'll hold it there. And you want to make sure that especially this front edge is glued down really well, because that's where your sock is going to be moving in and out when you're poking his head in and out of the shell. So you want that front edge held down really well, so that the sock doesn't rub it off and pop it back up on you. But it's easy to do a quick repair if you need to. All right, so same thing on the back end. We're just going to give it a bead around the edge. Maybe a little bit extra in the middle because of that seam. Fold it over. Oh, we'll let it cool for a minute. There we go. All right, fold it over. Give it a tag. Fold those edges down. I didn't get mine on very straight. There's a lot more folded over here than there is here, but again, it doesn't matter. The sock is going to hide it at the end. And there is our belly fabric placed onto our shell. So the next step is to take our larger piece of felt or newspaper or construction paper or whatever it is you decided to use. And now we're going to do the same thing, but on this one we want to make it just a little bit fancier. Because we can see the edges hanging down here, rather than use the rough edge of felt, we're actually going to give it a fold over so that we have a soft folded edge that's showing. So on either side of this square of felt, I'm just going to put a bead down along the edge, all the way down. More glue. And give that piece a little fold. There you go, and make a little hem on the end of your felt or fabric or whatever it is you're using. So just give that a bit of a fold down. This is also going to give it a little bit of fullness, and it's going to give some roundness to the shell around the body there. I'm going to spin it around and do the same thing on this side. A bead all the way down the edge. And fold it up. Pressing it down as we go so that it tacks onto itself. Keeps wanting to fold back up on me. There we go, and give that a little press. And then we've got those nice clean edges for the sides of our shell there. Okay, so we've got our piece of yellow fabric ready to go for the top of the shell. We're going to fold it down over. And we want it to be centered on the bottle. It's going to overhang the belly flaps a little bit so that there's no bottle showing. And we want to fold the front end and the back end in and over, but we're not going to glue down the sides. We want to leave the sides loose here. That's going to help give us a little bit of roundness to the body. So I'm going to start on the back end because this one's and back end's a little bit easier. I'm going to do the same thing where I just run a line of glue all the way across. Start by folding in the middle and following all the way around with the rest of the felt. Folding it in, tacking it down. There you go. You can give your bottle a bit of a roll just to help it stay on there. Great, and then I'm going to come around to the front end and do the same thing. I'm going to fold it down from the middle first and then fold around the sides, and I want to give it a bit of a tester fold before I actually glue it, because you might have a little bit of trouble on these side pieces here, especially where we've done the fold down and you have the funny angle. Mine feels like it's not going to give me too much trouble, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a pre-shape. Let it open back up again, and then I'm going to put that bead. I'm going to put a little bit extra in the corners because I know those are folding over and in. Another glue. Oh. I have a piece of glue stuck in the back of my gun. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So let's give it a bit more glue. I'm going to start with the middle fold, up and over, and just keep tagging these down, pull them all the way in there. This one as well. Oh, careful not to touch your glue. Fold it in. And you can see what happens is that this gets left a little bit loose, and that gives us more of that kind of roundness to the to the back of the shell there. We get a little bit more shape to it. Wonderful. Okay, now we can go and add a design into the back. So I had pre-cut an oval that I thought might look nice down the middle. The size is pretty good, and I cut some spiky little pink triangle bits. They're a bit longer than I want them to be, so what I'm going to do is kind of place them where I want them, and then I'm going to cut off the ends whichever way I want them to be, cut the back end or cut the top end off. So I'm going to go ahead and lay these out here now. And I'm not gluing anything down, I'm just going to lay them all out first, so I can see how it looks and if it's what I want it to do. And I'm just going to trim the pieces as I go so that they fit onto the shell. And I'm not being too exact with my pieces. I'm okay if it's a little bit rough. If you want yours to look a very certain way, you can cut them all the pieces really carefully and make it look super precise, but I kind of just want mine to be a little bit rough. I did this one really rough too, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. And this one, it didn't turn out rough because I used the stickies, and so the stickies were an exact shape, and it turned out a little bit different than the way this one looks on the back. So 3 more of these triangles. Let's put one there and one right here. Don't like the point on that. There we go. And one more right here. Great. And I gotta cut that off. Some pink, and then I want some orange to go in between the pink pieces. So I'm gonna cut those and put them in between. Wonderful. And let's take a big fat one to put down at the end. Oh, a little bit too long. Great. And we'll put these 2 in the middle like this. And another one in the front. And 2 on the sides. Great. So this is what I came up with on my pattern. Something like that. You can do anything you want. You could do polka dots, you could do stripes, you could look up on Google different kinds of turtles and you could find your favorite one and try to recreate a pattern or some colors that look like that, or you can just make it up like I did. Whatever you want to do. Whatever turtle shape and color makes you feel happy is the one that you should do. So now that I've got them all laid out and they're kind of the shape that I want them to be, I'm just going to take the time to stick them all on with my glue. If I was using stickies, I could just stick them on with the tape. But we're just going to take a minute and do each one. We'd love to hear in the comments if there's some other turtle or puppets you'd like to do. If you'd like to do another sock puppet, or if you're interested in doing maybe a rod puppet or a marionette, some kind of puppet that you've heard of, or if you think we should just keep doing more of these fancy sock puppets. We'd also love to see pictures of the puppets that you've made. If you want to share those with us in the comments or on our social media feeds. One more in the circle. And then the oval in the back. Stick that down. And the top pieces. So now we're going to take our legs that we made before and we're going to tuck them up in under and glue them down up inside the body. If you're finding that they're a little bit long, just trim off the top pieces. I kind of think mine are just a wee bit long. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a trim at the top. Stick a bead of glue up inside the shell and stick our leg down there. Another one on the back side. Make the back leg a little bit longer. There we go. So we end up with 2 little legs off the side, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Bead of glue at the top. Stick it up inside. And trim this one off a bit. And another bead of glue. Ooh. And one more stick up inside. There we go. Make sure they're kind of the same length. So there's our legs. And now our last step is we need to attach the sock to the inside of the puppet. So we're just going to take our puppet, squish his batting back up into his head. go. Hook the head back through. And then here's how we're going to do the back. So we have a rough edge on the back, and we're going to fold it in half and find the top and find the bottom. We're going to take one little bead of glue, tag it to the top, and tag the sock to the top of the bottle. Then, let's just pass it all the way through. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom. So halfway across the sock, we want to find where the bottom is, give it a little squirt, stick it to the bottom. Now we're going to do the same thing with the left and the right. So find the middle on the right, give it a little squirt, push it over and glue it on the side. Same thing over here, halfway, over, and give it a squirt. So now we have a square shape in the back of our sock, and we're going to go through and do a tag around each one of the spaces in between what we just did. Make sure that's good and stuck. So a squirt in the southeast, you could call it, squirt in the southwest, a squirt in the northwest, a squirt in the northeast, and then this is where this little guy comes in handy. We can put it inside and use it to squish down to the sides, or we can just use our fingers. And if it's still peeling up, you can just find the little holes and at this point and just give a little squirt in each one of the holes so that you can stick down the edges to the inside of your puppet. There you go. Just give that a little hold, and here is the magic moment. We can turn up our puppet, put our hand inside, and there is another member of the Turtle Puppet family. There you go. Oh my goodness. So we're gonna end up having to name them all. I think this one is a girl. I think I finally made a girl. So some different examples of materials that can be used, but here's the final product of our turtle sock puppets, and they have the great feature where you can poke their heads, they can be shy, or they can be talkative, or they can hide in for the night. You can rest them on your arm and walk around as a pet. There you go. Thanks very much. Come back next time for another episode of Concrete Crafts.